Welcome to the Profit Talks podcast, hosted by the Orange County Inland Empire SBDC Network, funded in part by the U.S. Small Business Administration and the California Office of the Small Business Advocate. This show is the go-to resource for business owners seeking empowerment, education, and resources to succeed. Join us as we connect you with experts, share the triumphs of fellow entrepreneurs, and reveal the wealth of assistance available to you today to level up your business. So let's go. Let's dive in and learn more. Somebody a long time ago told me the successful formula for telling a story, for a movie, for a TV series, is to take us into a world we've never seen before. That's what we're going to do today here. Maybe it's not quite as life and death as medical or outer space, but it's certainly a world I know nothing about, and we're going to learn a lot more about it with our guest today, Melissa Ragel from AMARKO Sales. That's AMARKO, AMARKO Sales. Welcome to our show today here.
Good morning, Paul. Thank you for the invite. I'm looking forward to joining you this morning.
Now, I've set it up pretty big here. This is a pretty strange world to me here. It's not about espionage. It's not about outer space, but it is about a world that I don't know anything about, which is this world of in-store sampling. I go to Costco, I go to Ralph's, I go to these places, and I go to Trader Joe's, and there's often or always somebody there offering me a sample, particularly of adult beverages, as we say, beer, wine, spirits, and whatnot. And you apparently are the person that organized these and put these together. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. So the obvious question that everybody's saying is, what? Why? How did you get into this world? Were you in beverage sales? Did you work for were you a rep for some, I don't know, Southern Wines and Spirits or one of the big distributors or something here?
It's quite interesting. About 16 years ago, I was a bored housewife and started.
I get it now. I get it now.
And believe me, I've never thought my life would go in this direction, but I worked for a fairly large chain specialty with alcohol throughout California, Washington, Arizona, and I quickly rolled into the marketing department, and that's where it was. We're very familiar with in-store samplings, and that's really the objective, is to see the shelves of so many different competitive brands. I know you want a specific brand is like, look, I need to increase my sales, and the classic telltale sign is liquid to lips. So we
liquid to lips.
Liquid to lips. You can have digital, you can have signs, but when they get to sample
try
something,
this, it's wonderful. Look at the celebrities who drink it. But if you put liquid to lips, you got a much better chance of hooking them here, of getting them to try something here.
And through the years, I just grew my network into working with the suppliers, the distributors, and of course the retailers. And then about 8 years ago, I went into the agency side and grew that network and really elevated to cover national. And so I understood like one of the key components really understanding is you see that there's a lot of food sampling. When it comes to alcohol, the regulations across the U.S. is just all over the map.
And every state is different. Some states want you to do it here. For example, I don't know, people in California realize I owned a bar, as I said, off camera here for 10 years, and I learned a little bit about the world of beer and wine and alcohol. I learned a lot, actually, through all those years of doing this. And what I didn't realize is how the states are all different. There are some states you can't sell liquor on Sunday. There are some states that you can only do it through ABC stores or something. You can't sell it through the alcohol beverage stores. I think Pennsylvania's one where you have to go into their state. Michigan was one where I grew up here. I got all my Michigan gear on today because we won this weekend. But it's all about regulations and conforming to those regulations and how you do it. So you do this nationwide? You don't do this just in California?
Yes. I cover this nationwide. And yes, understanding, so being a subject matter expert in regulations by state with the ABCs and Department of Liquors and certifications, licensing, and then protocols. So protocols are absolutely mind-blowing in some states where it's like you have to do it this way, but in the next state, it's completely different.
Now, give me, I don't know what a protocol would be, like how you verify or how you approach the customer, or what. I don't know what a protocol is.
Exactly. And as mentioned too, is we can't sell. We're not sellers. We are promotion. So we're educating shoppers on products, but stanchioned off areas. Some places don't want you stanchioned off. Checking IDs, requiring that. RBS, the responsible beverage service training. Some
Yes, right.
states
We had to
have
do it for bars. Don't keep, I want another sample. Give me 12 more samples. I'll sit here all day long.
exactly.
Right.
And limiting samples. Some states, like, you can only have one. And then if you go to another state like Illinois, you can have a table, 8 tables lined up in bennies, and you have beer, wine, and spirits throughout, and you can just keep sampling. So
Keep
every
going,
state
yeah.
does, yeah, they're very different. So that is one really experience that I have gained.
And there's probably
through the
big
years.
penalties if they catch you violating
Oh,
these
they
rules.
are.
They throw you out, they give you a fine, and suddenly the brand is embarrassed and they fire you and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and that's typically what happens is we will have suppliers not, there's so many different laws, but they'll come to us and request that we do something specific. And I was like, that's not legal. We can't do that. So we become advisors, because our goal is to keep them from having fines at distributors, the retailers, the demonstrator, and then the agency. So we have a lot of responsibility to ensure that all of the in-store samplings that get to the liquid to lips is all compliant.
Liquid to lips. I'll never
executed-
forget that one. That's a great name.
Flawlessly. So
So, in addition to saying, here, do you want to try this? You've got to be able to explain it and tell somebody something about it. You've got to tell the story. Hopefully they like how it tastes, but hopefully they like the story even better. This is a single malt beverage. This is brewed by a family for 400 years. We use some special cherry wood or something. There's something that pulls them in to say, wow, I want to know more.
exactly. And that's really what you want. And that's how we promote our agency to gain more clients, as we talk about raising brand awareness, brand loyalty, and then the long-term ROI, even though we're not selling, but we know their objective. And so we want to make sure that when we're promoting this, is that they're coming back and buying it.
Yeah, exactly. Now, how do you verify that? How do I know that AMARKO sales, is it just we see if the needle moved in that store, or if that marketplace, or are you allowed to give out coupons and discount things? And
Coupons are really one of those, ABC laws are very stringent, so if they're compliant, but we do have our brand ambassadors do a pre and post inventory count, even though I said we're not selling, but we will do this additional
did
service.
they run out and grab one on the way out? Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly. And then we also provide feedback from what the shoppers are experiencing. We'll provide photos of the events. We'll also talk about how many have they heard the product, have they tried the product, and would they purchase this product? Because sometimes people may be on a very short list to go to the store, but they'll make a moment to taste and saying, I'm coming back and buying this.
Yeah. I'm a
And so we
sucker. I
work-
go to Costco quite a lot here in Southern California, and Costco is notorious. I don't know if they've done alcohol sales in Costco. I don't think I've ever tried alcohol, but I
think
try
they stepped
food.
away.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I try food
definitely
all
the
the
food.
time. And I'm a sucker for it. I come home and tell my wife, hey, look what I got here. I got some special Lithuanian turkey rolls or something here. And she'll go, what? Try them. They're really good. So I think it does have a direct impact. It's an impulse decision. Okay, I'll try one of those. Hey, that's pretty good. I've never sampled it
Right.
before.
Exactly.
I think it's more critical. I told you I started off, I had a bar for 10 years here in Southern California, an Irish pub, as I'm Irish. And initially, you sold a half a dozen type of beers and 2 or 3 tequilas and everything else. It was about volume, but a small number of brands controlled most of that volume. When I began in the business, when I had that place, that was when the explosion happened. 50 beers on tap, 100
Craft,
tequilas,
definitely.
craft beers, specialty beers, single malt whiskeys, all these categories of things that I never heard of before. And that came to dominate it, to the point where I don't know how the big guys, Budweiser and Miller and Coors and whoever the big guys are these days, and I know there's a handful of giant brands that control most of the spirit sales, Diageo and all these things, but I don't know how they support hundreds, thousands maybe of brands. Go into a supermarket today and the wine aisle alone, by category, has hundreds of selections of wineries
Absolutely.
I've never heard of. And the same thing with the beers, and the same thing with the tequilas and the vodkas and all the other stuff. You're constantly wondering. Now, it went from I only had a couple of choices to now I have an overwhelming amount of selections. And
Absolutely.
I often wonder how people pick that beer. It's got to be packaging. That bottle looks clever. That brand is somehow that jumps off the shelf at me here. Some of it may be reviews. I read about it. I saw about it. They put something under it. It got a 98 on the Wine Spectator sales or something. But a lot of it's somebody telling me, try this.
Right.
And that's where you come in.
Yes, exactly.
You must have some
And
brands.
that's where we come in.
Give me a story.
Absolutely.
Don't tell me the brand, please. God, don't. But there must be some stories, horror stories, that you get hired, and this stuff is just no good. Nobody likes this stuff. Nobody's buying. It's the famous story of the old ad story that they used to tell for years. The good news is about dog food. An ad agency comes into the client and said, we've tested everything. This is the best product ever built. It's cheaper than any dog food on the market. It's got the most brand recognition out there. It's incredible. Only one problem. The dogs won't eat it. It's no good. So is there brands that just have all the marketing? And I don't know the name of them, but you must get in the store and then people go, yuck.
Yes, we have had that. I'm very mindful of their brands because there's something for everybody.
Right.
And so something that may be a little bit, if I just even look at the category of wine, and something may be a little bit too sweet for somebody or extremely dry, somebody is going to like it. And so it's also that opportunity to growth for the brand. And then finding that niche market or shoppers that will actually enjoy it. But yes, we've had some interesting brands. I've worked with a lot of celebrities. I've tried a lot of their brands. And then we also have some, and when I started this, to back up a little bit, I was shifting out of the agency side and some of the suppliers called me and they said, hey, we didn't call the agency for them. We called them for you.
For you. You're good at this. Yeah.
Could you manage my programs? And that was like, so many times I was like, yeah, I'm a corporate woman. I don't know. And eventually it just, you know what, I'm going to do it. And here I am 6 months later.
So let's talk about that evolution of corporate. You went from bored housewife, is that the way you described it here?
Yes.
To beverage sales. That's a big leap. And then or sales and marketing, and then to an agency. I guess there are agencies that manage whatever, pick a brand or something.
Yeah.
Some brand hires this agency and says, go nationwide, set up a sampling program, give us some feedback, tell us what's good, tell us what they like, tell us how it works. And that's an easy gig because the agency has to go out and it's got to be pretty cutthroat too. There's a billion brands and probably, are there a lot of agencies or just a handful that dominate this?
There's a lot of agencies and there's of course some very large ones that have the lion's share of the market. However, it's, the relationships is the priority. So I've been in this business 16 years. So a lot of them were like, absolutely. So they're throwing me their business. And then I've known the distributors. So I'm talking to them and they're like, hey, I'm going to send these people to you.
I know Southern Wines and Spirits I know they're huge, aren't they, nationwide? And then
yes, they're Southern Glaziers. Yeah, they're called Southern Glaziers now. And RNDC, which used to be Young's in California, is now all RNDC. So you have them and there's a couple of other ones that I work with directly just because I have the history and from the retail level when I worked in a store, that's where I met them all.
And so you started doing this, you'd stand in the store and say, hey, you want to try this? And what?
No.
Did you ever do it?
No, I did the planning side of it.
Always the planning. Okay.
To be a business owner, you do have to step out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
However, that is just something that I'm like,
come on over. Hey, come
That's
here.
a little awkward.
What's the come on? What's the approach? Do you just sit there and say to everybody, want some? Want to try some? Want to try some with a smile?
Typically we have some really great brand ambassadors that have been doing a very long, they just have that approachable smile.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, would you like to sample some of this Chardonnay today? We're offering this brand. Would you like to come in? And of course, before they start actually pouring samples, it's doing the protocols of checking the IDs, make sure they're legal. And then they talk about the history and things like that. So it's that inviting look. And you can tell, and maybe it's just because I've been doing it a long time, you can walk in the store and you can tell like, oh, they know what they're doing. This brand ambassador knows like how to constantly get.
Because so many of them, I'm sorry to say, at Costco doing the food just seem bored. And they're just putting the food out and they sit there. They're just passing it out. And then they say something. Or they get in this robotic thing. Bread, special bread, certain brand, blah, 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 20% off, go here. And it's just, they're just repeating it endlessly. They're not physically there. They're not connecting with the customer.
And when you're doing this, there's so many moving parts and also it's timing. And so we know when people are out shopping, they're not window shopping and taking their time. They have a checklist and they're trying to get out, especially something as large as Costco. So they know you have 3 seconds to say something for them to get the sample.
That's me.
And then
yeah.
in the wine, we look at like about 1. And if they're really interested, you can get about 2 minutes of time out of them. And so you have to be able to quickly deliver a message to get them to engage and then offer the sample. And then if you could do that, it's pretty good success.
And do you craft the message, or are you just handed a script? This is what I want you to say.
They're handed someone a script, but a lot of brand ambassadors do this for multiple agencies. So this is like their role wherever they go. So they already have their own script in mind. However, when they study the sell sheet, the product information, the tasting notes about it, or the history, they quickly absorb that information and know how to implement it into that conversation to get them to engage.
And is this all in retail locations, or do you go into on-premises locations too?
No, I am only retail. On premises, that is an entirely different beast. That's models. Yeah, there's the criteria is very different. And I've done it a little bit, but this is my comfort zone. I feel like I've mastered it. So I continue to stick to the retailers.
I'll tell you 2 quick stories. I'll try and make them quick here. So I had a bar for 10 years, and we obviously did have brands that come in and do promotions and sometimes samples, although there were limitations in that area. Anything that somehow encourages the consumption of alcohol is frowned upon. I remember the Goldschlager. That was the one. Goldschlager and Jägermeister, both. Oh my God, they had the prettiest girls and the cutest girls, and they would just come around and they would just take over the room and give everybody samples or shots or something here. And they built that brand out of nothing. Both of those brands, Jägermeister and Goldschlager, these real syrupy kind of after dinner liqueurs. Yes. And they built an in-store, this is back in the 80s or 90s, everybody consumed those brands because they were so good at getting you to try this stuff. The cute girls, come on, let's do this. And they had little giveaways and prizes.
It is modeling, yes.
Yeah.
And there's also one story that I always look at as that inspiration was like Patron. And that was their vision, was go to every store every weekend. And I try to convey that messages to my suppliers, especially when you have newer ones that are like, look, I have this money.
Right.
And then I find the best strategy for them. And my biggest advice to them is don't do a one time. You will be D-status before you notice.
Yes.
You need to repeat.
Yes.
Find a smaller market within your budget and go 3 months, go 6 months. Don't say, I'm going to cover the entire state with all my money. You'll be D-status before you know it. So I really also want to advise them with the best products.
Because that's what I saw about those 2 brands in particular in the 80s. They hit it hard and all the time, and it was a show that they put on, and they took over, and sales, they had no money otherwise to promote these brands, just through in-store. Right. And the other one is a silly story. I always tell people, who anybody wants to own a bar, promote one of these brands. We had, it was called Kelly McHugh's. It was this Irish pub kind of thing. And we had tons of different beers. And that was the whole idea, is to get them to try all the beers. Because if they found one, then they could only find it here. We had lots of bizarre beers, some of which were really yuck or bizarre or very hard for people to appreciate. One of those was a product called Framboise Lambic, a Belgian-style ale. You're a Belgian name here. And these Lambic styles are very the original fruity beers and stuff. And framboise means raspberry, so it was a raspberry fruity beer. And it came with a little champagne cork and all this stuff to it. Very expensive and very hard to promote. I asked all our staff, that were primarily girls, wait staff and everything here, to come in. I said, what do you recommend to customers? And this one girl says, I hate to tell you, I don't drink beer. We're trying to push 50 beers and you don't drink beer. How do you recommend to people? She said, don't fire me. I didn't want to tell you, but I hate beer. I said, everybody's got to try one of these beers and find one that you can get behind, one that you hopefully like. And she found this fruit, because it was almost like champagne to her. And it real fruity and everything. She was cute, and she was a very good salesperson. And she would just tell everybody, oh, don't get that. You got to get this. This isn't great. Because she really got enthusiastic about it. She liked it. She'd never heard of such a category. So this is distributed through Southern Wines and Spirits, has mashed the thing. We actually had the vice president for the whole Southern California region come out to our little store once. And I said, why are you here? We're thrilled to have you here. He said, I want to find out what the hell you're doing. We sell 4 cases of this throughout Southern California, and you sell 4 cases a week of this one thing. I said, it's because of this one girl and her enthusiasm for this product and her constant pushing it. Try it. from whatever you said, something to lips here, something from
Lips.
liquid to lips. And I never forgot that. The power of suggestion, the power of somebody that you like and trust and say, okay, I'll try it, and exposing them to something that they've never tasted before here. It can
Right.
have an enormous impact. All right, so now you're off on your own. That's got to be a little different. If the phone doesn't ring, if the problems erupt or something, it comes to you. You've got to figure
Yes.
this out. And you said that was you were hesitant to leave the comfort of the agency world. They can worry
It
about
was.
the relationships and the problems. I just do what I do. Now you got to be a marketing guru. You got to be a salesman. You got to be, and you got to run staff. Maybe you ran staff before, people and stuff here. Talk about that shift. What was that like? And what were you afraid of? And what didn't you know that you didn't know here?
It's funny, and that's why I chuckled, because literally there were some days I was like ready to breathe into the brown bag. I'm like, what have you done? Just setting up the business. And I was like, I'm going to do it, set up the business. And I'm a person not afraid to get their hands dirty and do the
Right.
work. So I was like, okay, I need a website. I need this. And like when I worked in marketing, so it's okay, come up with your PowerPoint, come up with your logo. And so I started doing everything. And then it's also that plan of what are you going to sell and what is it going to cost you? You want to make sure you're looking into the profits. Like I'm not going to start a business to eat mac and cheese the rest of my life.
Yes, exactly.
So I was coming
Profit
up
and
with like,
loss
okay,
statements and numbers. And we can't tell you the number of businesses come on here and says, I love doing this. I love being a flower shop. I just love flowers. But I never knew that I have to turn a profit at this thing here. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
Let's sell more of these. We've had restaurants come on. We make the biggest sandwich in the world. Yeah, and do you know you lose $1 every time you sell one of those sandwiches because you priced it so wrong? You've got so much packed into it.
Exactly.
Of course, everybody loves it. It's a ton of food for half of what it should cost.
And that was really important to me. And what's funny is my initial investment out of pocket was $2,700.
What? I thought you were going to say
$2,700.
$27,000
No.
or something.
I had already achieved about $130,000 in sales in 6 months. It
Oh
was
my goodness!
crazy.
Congratulations!
So
Wow.
I'm very detail oriented. So I open up love my spreadsheet. So I was like, okay, if this is what I charge for the in-store sampling, okay, how much is going to go to tax? What is going to cost this vendor? What is it going to cost for shipping? I had it broken down to cover all costs and then still make a profit. So every time everything's coming through. So I knew exactly what I was going to make per program.
Now, do you? It sounds like you buy the alcohol and then
We do, yes, in California. So like Colorado, no, the retailer has to provide it. So in California, what we do is we do buy it at California is you have to buy it at wholesale cost.
Okay.
In Arizona, you have to buy it at retail cost. So it's also understanding
Okay.
every state
That's crazy.
with their regulations, and we do bill them for that. And then, but I was also like, okay, they need ice. All these details are
cups
organized in
and
the beginning.
things, and yeah.
The
right.
cups are from me, so you can barely see. I actually have set up a logistics center in my. I have a game room. I have this large room in my house, so it's actually turned into my logistics center office. And I contract with my adult kids and saying, okay, we have 58 kits to make this weekend. I've already ordered the cups. I've ordered the boxes. We already know the shipping costs. We'll know all of that information by the time that we get it out to the brand ambassador, and then they are executing. But that was a priority, is to ensure that we are profitable.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm not folding over millions of dollars. And so I want to stay humble about that. However, the model is set up. So then when it starts to grow and continues to grow, we are always going to continue to see a profit.
The famous story of, I think it was Planet Hollywood, and every time they opened one, they lost money. So the rationale was, let's open up 3 more. And so it looked onto the stock, we just added 4 more bazillion dollars of sales. But the profit, every one was losing money. And eventually it caught up with them. And they thought eventually it would scale up. We'll get past, okay, open another one. But we lose money. We haven't figured out how to make money on each unit. And eventually it all blew up because the sales were increasing. But the more the sales went up, if you can picture that spreadsheet, the more the sales go up, the more the losses mount.
Right.
And
you need to put the markup on early, and you make sure that you stay consistent on that. So that's also when we have conversations with suppliers. I don't throw any price right away. It's okay. We go over the discoveries and what they want. We had one very premium scotch we recently did over the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I priced it a little bit heavy because I was like, oh, okay, wait. When she knew that there was going to have to be change, but every demo had 5 boxes of Scotch glasses that
Oh,
we had to
yeah.
kit up and ship to all the demo people. See, these
Yeah.
boxes are massive.
And how many
And so
break and
those
how
are
many,
things.
what kind of boxes do I use? Gee, we got to come up with a better box so they don't break as many or whatever here. And
Yeah, they were within a pretty good box, so I haven't heard anything breaking, or if anything had broken. But those are things that we price out in the beginning, but I make sure that it covers if I have labor and if I had to buy anything extra
right.
shipping. So
'Cause you don't
we
think of those
prepare
things.
all that.
Right.
No, you don't. And most people want to be like, oh, I'm just going to give you straight costs. But now your labor's not going to make any money because you have to pay them extra because they're going to spend more time.
Exactly.
So that it was really important to set the business up.
And then you want to scale it, and it's why does it take us 57 hours to do this? It should take us 57 minutes instead. But
Yes.
we never figured that process out, that labor into it.
Yeah.
All right. So how did the SBDC help you? How did you find us, and how did they help you?
Google is my friend.
All right, let's give a shout out to who your consultant is.
Naja Faisal has been my consultant from the get-go.
Okay.
Really encouraging. He's been a sounding board, a cheerleader, and also a lot of guidance on and things that are so new to me, and new language and new concepts for business has been
New words I've never heard: profit and loss. When you work for the agency, I don't care what it costs. I don't care if it makes any money. Just send me my salary here. I'm doing a good job.
Exactly. Yeah, Naja's been fantastic. And then I was going through QuickBooks, and I was like, why am I struggling on QuickBooks? And so he introduced me to Giovanni Lewis. And so I think Giovanni.
Yes,
so
yes.
she meets with me monthly, and I'm like, help me reconcile. And I put everything into QuickBooks. I'm like, why can it not reconcile? So Giovanni comes in, calm, cool, and collected, and she does a couple steps. And so here's where you messed up. And I'm like, oops, sorry. And every month, this is where your mistake is. Like, one day I'll learn.
And what does it tell you? I've had people, when I had a bar, people at the end of the day said to me once, do you ever go look at your profit and loss statement? And I said, I guess we look at how much money's left over because we want to spend it. But I don't know what it tells me. I see just tables of numbers, and I get it that we're selling more of this and less of this, but I didn't really understand how to. We had Craig in here from the Finance Center. Financials tell you a big story about your enterprise, where the weaknesses are and where the potential for growth is, and maybe problems that you just didn't see, to ways to save money and stuff here. Most people just, good, somebody did it, send it to the accountant. Now let's get back to the fun part. Let's sell flowers. Let's pass out samples here. It's never about the money. Most entrepreneurs are bad when it comes to numbers. That's my determination.
One benefit, though, for me opening this is I am like a horribly frugal person, like ridiculous. Like I just had to order a monitor, and I was like, I'm not buying the brand new one for $389. I'm going to buy the $100 one because it's been. I said it's a screen. It doesn't matter. But one important thing, and whoever's listening and is an entrepreneur, I cannot express this enough. Open that savings account. And every time I have a profit after my expenses, I go, okay, I'm going to profit $2,000. I throw that right into the savings account. When now it's not in my operating expenses, because you can quickly, you saw that, you saw the picture and how much money was there. Oh, wait, no, I've got all this money. I move it aside right away. And then I'm to the point I've saved up overhead costs for about half of 2025.
Mm-hmm.
So my next goal is to open another savings account, and I'm going to move all my operating. That's your internet, your website service, your whatever fees that you
mean you don't go just rent a new Tesla just because you made some money this month here? You don't go get the Lamborghini right away?
Frugal. Capital F. Frugal.
And I'll tell you what somebody else told me a long time ago. I don't know if this is your case, but not just save money and try and cover your costs and your expenses and overhead as quickly as you can, then the rest is profit, is to pay yourself first. I never learned that lesson. I paid myself last. I paid this, maybe I paid this in advance. I paid this off. It was always pay everything but me. And somebody said, pay yourself first and just get that established so that you're not sacrificing that later. Or I'll pay myself later because we'll go buy this now, or we'll do this later. And pretty soon you're not profitable again. You can't sustain this thing.
Yeah, I do have I have a little salary. I'm humble about that, just because we're still 6 months in. I can't go out and make it.
Hey, look at the money we're making. Yeah.
Like that. Right. However,
But
But
isn't that
what I
what?
do is at the end of each quarter, I will pay myself 50% of the profits.
There
So
you
now
go.
it's okay. But I keep money in there because you never know. You have dry spells.
Clearly.
And January in our business is always like a screeching halt. But
Mm.
then they'll call me next week saying, can you get the weekend before Super Bowl? Can you get Super Bowl? So
Yes,
then
right.
that's that momentum. But those are things that I want to go slow and not worry about paying myself too much. And I'm like, in time, I'd rather build this business, my experience, my suppliers that I have close relationships with. I've already delivered some programs, recaps, and the first thing they said is, you over delivered. They were ecstatic
Wow.
because it's
Wow.
listening to them for 15 plus years. What do they want? And so I captured that and I put them into reports and saying, this is what's happened at our
Under
depots.
promise and over deliver.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. It sounds like you're well on the road to success. I don't see any bumps in the road here. Alcohol sales continue to, I think it's still a growing category, isn't it? Or has it become a
Challenged.
it's become, I've heard some statistics that say it's leveled off. It's not,
Yes.
Americans aren't consuming more alcohol, maybe consuming less because of age, because of DUIs and driving restrictions and everything.
Or lifestyles, yes.
Lifestyle,
It's a
yeah.
little flat, and this is where it's really important to find that agency, which of course would be me,
Mhm.
but you want that best strategy. Okay, so if they're reporting flat, the
Mhm.
economy.
So we'll cut that out.
Okay.
So what the whole point of the story is that it's in a flat world. Sometimes you have to re-examine your path forward here.
Yes, exactly. If you want to especially end up on top, is don't sit and idle.
And don't do it the way we always did it, just because that always worked. You have to be
Yes.
adaptive and new things. It sounds like you're on top of it. You've had the connections. Would you go back and tell your former, we're going to get in the time machine and go back and you say, why am I working for the agency? I could be doing this myself. Or was there a little voice in your head saying, no, this is safe. I'll just stick with this?
If I were to go back, I wouldn't tell them anything, but I'd tell myself, you're dumb for not doing. Somebody told me probably about 8 years ago and said, go on your own.
Hmm.
And I did not ever think that. So if I were to go back to the time, I would probably tell myself, do it.
Go for it.
It's worth it.
And what would you urge them to call the SBDC and utilize because they've got over 100 different consultants that can find different specialties for you with marketing or QuickBooks or strategy or logos or all sorts of things here.
I cannot recommend it enough. Anybody that's talking about a business or even been in business, I'm like, call SBDC. It is such a great lifeline to help you. It's not competitive. You're not having employees. You're not paying a consultant.
Right.
These are people that genuinely care for your business success, economic development. It really is beneficial to any business to have that resource to
Well,
be able to help their business
that's what
succeed.
I think. I think it's one of the secrets to success that few businesses have caught on, or not enough businesses. I won't say few, but not enough. Most people still don't know this resource is available to them, funded by the SBA and the state and other sorts of things. They have a variety of people these aren't people who once did it. These are often people who are still doing it. Full
Right.
disclosure, I teach podcasting and stuff for businesses through the SBDC. That's how they came to me to host this show here. And I'm amazed at the people that I run across, really high level, smart, successful people who give back part time through these programs and help people like yourself launch businesses. And for nothing other than hopefully some metric they can go back to the government and say, see, they actually did launch so many new businesses. They did grow their sales. They did hire so many people. A couple little numbers is all they're looking for here to prove that this is really a worthwhile program.
It really is.
Nationwide, and you're out in what? You're in Riverside County, somewhere out there?
Riverside County, yes.
Okay, and I guess this is a business you can run from anywhere, basically here.
Absolutely. Yes. Many in this business, especially business development managers or even client service managers, they're remote throughout the US. You don't need a big fancy office. You can do it out of your home and set up a computer. It
You are
really is
the
a computer.
dream business that we're all looking for. We want to put $2,500 in and get $100,000 in sales out of it here. This is an incredible success story. Much continued success to you. I hope you'll come
Thank
back
you.
a year or two from now when you're you've got 500,000 people working for you and you're listed on the NASDAQ and you're
The big dream.
all right. How do people reach you if they want to find out more about your firm? Maybe somebody listening needs some help in-store marketing, promotional
Yes,
marketing
they
here?
can go to my website. It's AMARKOMarketingSolutions.com, or they can email me, MRAGOLE at AMARKOMarketing.com.
And let's spell that again, because I wanted to put a C in there, like C for co, but it's K.
AMARKO, Marco.
And no great story behind AMARKO, just it was a Scrabble board. You went to Chat GPT, and they came up with some clever names that nobody had come
Put in
up
some
with.
special words to me on special names, and then it produced 12 different company names. I had to search up each company name to see if that it was available exactly, and AMARKO was the winner.
That's the winner. All right, we have a winner here today. AMARKO. I always want to say sales, but it's AMARKO Promotional
Marketing Solutions.
All right. See, I still got it wrong.
See, we're your solutions to marketing.
That's it. All right. Thank you for joining us here today and for sharing your story. It took us into a world I know nothing about here. Thank you so much.
You have a great day.
As we conclude another episode of the Profit Talks podcast, we hope we've empowered your entrepreneurial spirit. Reach out to us to connect with our experts, and let's take your business to the next level. Keep those dreams alive, keep pushing forward, and stay tuned for more. And if you liked what you heard in today's podcast and you want your business to reach new heights, just contact us at profittalkspodcast.org or call us at 1-800-616-7232. That's 1-800-616-7232. So until next time, keep thriving.